All right, this is me. I am Tara Connolly, and I am with the Division of Human Resource Management. And I'm super excited to be here today and to kind of talk through things today about how to be more purposeful in our delegation. Before we get started, though, I want to let you know about next month's. Now, normally we have these on the last Wednesday of every month, but due to some scheduling issues, we have had to bump February's into the first week of March. So it's going to be March 5th at 10 a.m. I don't think you need to remember that. Just know that when you register, Shane's put it in chat. So when you register, it's going to just put it straight to the correct date on your calendar. So, but just so you know, it is March 5th, and then we will have another one the end of March too. But this one coming up on March 5th is by Dr. Dan Chase, and I am so excited for this one. It's Let's Talk Story. It's really about the importance of storytelling and how we can use storytelling to motivate and engage and create a positive environment for our team and ourselves. So that's going to be a really, really good one. And so I encourage you to sign up for that as well. Okay, this is us today. And we are going to focus today on delegation, and more than just delegation. We're going to talk about how to do it purposefully, so that it's not just handing off work that you don't like or just doling out tasks. We want it to be something that is very purposeful and useful for you and your team. So we are going to go through some excuses that we tell ourselves. We're going to try to debunk those excuses. And then we're going to go through and walk through from the beginning to the end. This is how you can be purposeful in your delegation. So we're going to go through all of those in the next hour or less, actually. And it's hopefully, whether you're a supervisor, manager, director, or you're a team member, a direct employee, whichever it is, hopefully there's something in here that you can get out of this. Although this is geared more towards leadership, hopefully there's something for everyone, though. Okay, so to start, here's some of the excuses that we tell ourselves. And I want to know how many of you, just give me a thumbs up if you've ever said these things. I'm so overwhelmed, and so is my team, so I don't dare give them more work. I feel too guilty about it. Anybody? Yeah, Brenda raised her hand. Lots of hands are raised. You can thumbs up. You can, yeah, a lot of you. I love it. And then how about it'll just take too long. I don't want to have to explain it, so I'm just going to do it myself. How many of you do that one? A lot of us. What about I'm the only one that can do these tasks? I'm the only one. Yeah, these are all, and sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes these are actual correct responses. These aren't just excuses that we might use. But when we use them, stop reading my mind, I love it. But when we use them as excuses, that's the problem. So we want to delve into each one of these. But right before we do that, I want to talk about, let's kind of switch and change our mindset a little bit, because that's going to help us as we work through these excuses. A lot of times, well, it's not just me, right? It can't just be me and 2-year-olds. I want to know why. If you can help me understand why, then I'm so much more willing to do things. And that's how it works for the majority of people, is once we understand why something is important, what difference it makes, then we're a lot more willing, and we have a lot more buy-in. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the why of delegation, so that we can see it as something positive. A lot of times we think delegation is just like, hey, I'm just going to give away my work. I hate doing this, so I'm going to give it to my team. Or I'm not good at this, and I'm going to give it away. And while sometimes that might be the truth, the real intent behind delegation is to grow and develop your team. That's your role as a supervisor, manager, director, as a leader. That is your role. Now, today I'm going to use the word supervisor. That means anybody who supervises at least one person. So don't take offense if you're a director and I say the word supervisor. I'm simply meaning you supervise at least one person. So you're a leader, and that's your role, is to help your team develop. And one of the ways, or one of the really good ways you can do that, is through delegation. So, you know, we worry that our success is based on how well we individually contribute. And really, your success is determined by how well your team can meet their goals, how well you support them and grow and develop them, and how well they contribute to the agency's mission. So that might involve, you know, you're helping them working on the projects that they are working on, as well as creating opportunities for them to develop and grow in other ways. And that means you have to loosen control and increase accountability. So you're loosening control of the things that you could do. You're going to loosen that up. And then you're going to allow more accountability on the part of your team. You're going to give them the opportunity to make bigger decisions or to do things that might not necessarily be within what their job duties are. You're helping them grow and develop. Also, another positive, really good thing about delegation is it helps you gain back valuable time so that you can focus on some more high priority things. Now, as I put this on here, higher priority, and I want to make sure that you don't leave here and be like, what the heck? Higher priority doesn't mean that your work is more important. And it doesn't mean that the work your team does is less important. So when I say higher priority, I'm thinking about these are the things that only you can do because your level of supervision, because the role that you have in your agency, these are your responsibilities. And so you are the only one that can focus on those. It might be more strategic assignments, things that might be more confidential, just things only a supervisor can do. So the great thing about delegation is you're able to focus more on those things and then also allow your team to be developing and growing. So this is a win-win. And I want you to keep working on changing your mindset to understand that delegation really is a win-win. And it's not just giving away the things you don't like to do, which that's kind of what we do a lot of times. But so a lot of times we think, well, I'm really good at giving out tasks. I can tell my team, do this, do this, do this. And you might be fantastic, but that doesn't mean that you're good at delegating. So I have this quote on here from Carol Walker, and she is the president of Choose to Lead. And I love this because it gives us a really good baseline of warning signs to look for. So if you think, hey, I'm already really good at delegating, but I want you to look back and say, am I working a lot of long hours? Am I feeling totally indispensable? And at the same time, is my team feeling like they have no energy? They're not engaged. They don't really, they come to work and do their job, but they're not really engaged in what they're doing. And when you do ask them to do something, they'll say, well, I can help you with that. And so that means they're not taking accountability, and we want them to have more accountability. And so this is just a good, think about this quote. Am I really just giving out work, or am I really delegating? Because we really want to delegate. So here we go. Let's go through our excuses. Let's talk about our first one, which is, I am so overwhelmed, and so is my team. And I feel guilty. I feel guilty giving them work to do. And guilt, many of us live in a perpetual state of guilt, right? And we want you to care about the welfare of your team and manage their workload. That makes you a good leader. The fact that you care about your team. The problem happens when you're focused so much on the guilt and you're letting the guilt overpower to know whether or not they really are overwhelmed. You won't really know if they're overwhelmed if what you're looking at is your own guilt, if that makes sense. So let's talk about guilt, but I don't want this to become like a therapy session. Okay, so we're not going down that road, but I just want you to think about your guilt for a second. Guilt actually has a really beneficial role in society. It has a great role. And so what happens is guilt can be either justified or unjustified. Now, justified guilt is It's what it's supposed to be. It is, we do something wrong. We cross over some type of social or personal norm or value or moral or something. And we get this horrible feeling inside, guilt. And then that guilt leads us to feel like we're responsible. And then we need to go make amends. Justified guilt has a true, real role in society. Now, unjustified guilt is when we wrongly assume responsibility for things, or maybe we overestimate how bad or how hurtful something is going to be. So I want you to step back. If you're feeling like, hey, I feel like my team is so overwhelmed and I feel guilty asking them to do more, I want you to step back and challenge your guilt. So ask yourself, what is stopping me from delegating? And I want you to write it down. Get a list, anything you can come up with. And then after you get that list written down, then I want you to go back to it and ask yourself the second question. How might I be wrong? What else about this could be true? Are there ways that you are still letting your guilt stop you from delegating? And so this is a really great, to double check your thinking is a really great thing to do, especially for those of us who are really guilt prone, who are really focused on, I'm responsible for other people's happiness and for their needs. If that's our life, and if that's kind of how we are in all of our life, not just at work, it becomes really difficult to let go of that guilt. And so you want to double check your thinking. Ask yourself, how might I be wrong? And what else could be true? And get a better sense of what's happening. I just don't want you to use guilt as like this blanket excuse as to why you don't delegate. All right, so the second thing to help you get rid of the guilt is to reframe it. Yeah, let go of mom syndrome. Absolutely, Jennifer. Yeah, oh, yeah. I live in guilt mode. Okay, the second thing we need to do is to reframe. We kind of talked about this a little bit, about changing our mindset, but I want you to think about what benefits does delegating give to your team. So rather than thinking of it as, I'm going to give them more work and that's going to be a burden, I'm going to think about, man, if I can show my team that I trust them, that I value what they do, that can help them feel they're making a greater contribution. That leads to more meaningful work, that leads to more engagement, and people are more satisfied with their job. So just reframing it a little and thinking, okay, yeah, it could be, it's so much better. It's not a lose situation, it's a win-win. The other thing is protect your team in different ways. If we know, well, hopefully if you're here, most likely, right? You support your team, you want what's best for your team, you want to figure ways to help them and support them. And that feeling of guilt a lot of times is because we want to protect them. So finding ways to protect them in other ways. It might be that you need to sit down with them and say, well, what's your workload? What are the things that you're doing that are nice to do, but we could get rid of if you're overwhelmed? What are the things that are essential? Are there things we can, streamline? Are there things that can be better? Helping protect their workload that way is a great thing. Another way to protect them, you might need to be the buffer between them and someone who is like at a higher, like senior position, someone who's like giving them work. You might have to step in and be the buffer and say to that person, hey, no, we don't have the capacity for that. Or that isn't something we have the capacity for right now. Can we do it in this, at this point, a month down the line or something? So you can be the buffer. So I want you to protect your team in other ways. Channel that guilt, and not even guilt, but channel your desire for the welfare of your team in other ways than trying to feel guilty about it. And then prepare for discomfort. Especially if you are someone who lives in that mom guilt or dad guilt or aunt or uncle guilt or whatever it is. If you have that guilt and you're living in that situation throughout your whole life, recognize it's difficult to move past that. So we're not doing therapy, but I want you to think about, it's going to be hard to let go of. So just be ready and prepared that it's going to be tough. and be okay with that and be more gentle on yourself. And if you make a mistake, think about mistakes as learning opportunities. Mistakes, that's what they are. They're opportunities for growth. So be gentle with yourself and say, what can I learn from this? And have that mentality. All right, here's our next one. Here's our next excuse. We say, oh, it's just going to take too much time to explain. Might as well do it myself. And that might be true. There might be times where we have, a small project that will take us 30 minutes, but might take 2 hours to explain to somebody. So yeah, but if that's a 30-minute thing you're doing over and over and over once a week, you can definitely look at delegating that, because over time, you're going to grow and develop your team and whoever it is that's doing that, as well as free up some time for you. So think of that. Also, yeah, return on time invested. Absolutely. There is a huge return on that time invested. Thank you. And so the other thing is, a lot of times when we do these off the shelves and other trainings, people leave and think, oh, it's going to take so much time to implement this. Oh, I'm going to have all these additional meetings. I'm going to have to do all this additional stuff. And that's really not the case. This is something that you can build into what you're already doing. You can integrate that delegation into it. So we're already having one-on-ones. We're having, hopefully, weekly meetings with each person on our team, or discussing things with them once a week. I hope, my goodness, I hope. And you're having staff meetings where you're talking with your entire team. You're having performance reviews. These are great opportunities and great times to discuss with your team, what is it that they want to learn? And so that you can figure out, how can I help them learn? So I've listed some questions on here. When you have your one-on-one, a great thing to do is say, hey, what kind of work makes you feel energized? What kinds of things make you feel the most accomplished? And my favorite one to always ask is, what do you love that others hate? Because I love to write policy. I love it. It's sickening, and I love it. And so anytime on our team, if there's ever a chance to write policy, I'm like, oh, me. And my boss knows, oh, yep, that Tara will do that, because I love it so much. Other people hate it, but I love it. So if you know something like that with your team, get that written down. Now, if it were me, I would probably be creating some sort of spreadsheet where on one tab, I will list all my team members, and then I might list the questions and then their responses, just so that I can have a good visual. This might be something you write down. It might be Post-it notes, or if your brain's really good, it might be something you just keep in your brain. And so I want you to be aware that, oh, sorry, I saw Ashley's comment. Sometimes I can see the chat, sometimes I can't. Ashley, yes, there are 2 in March. We had to switch it due to some scheduling conflicts. So it will be March 5th and then the last Wednesday in March. Okay. So the dates are correct when you register. All right. Okay, so spreadsheet, put it in a spreadsheet. You just want to be able to refer back to it. It's important that you know what it is, so that as you see assignments, tasks, projects, as these things come up, then you can say, oh, I know, so-and-so wants to know how to do this. This would be a great thing to delegate to them. You can also involve your team. So if you're sitting in staff meeting, ask them, where am I to involve? That feels a little scary to ask, but ask them that. And that might give you an idea of some areas you can delegate. You might say, where do you need me to get more involved? Because that might tell you that maybe you're just doling out tasks and you haven't delegated correctly, and you're not helping and coaching and supporting them through the delegation process. So asking these questions and telling your team, hey, if you hear of projects that you want to be involved in, tell me. If this is fascinating or interesting to you, tell me, so that we can work through your workload and figure out how we can get you in that. So the other thing is, sometimes you might have a whole huge project, but it's only pieces of it that you want to delegate, and that's okay too. So don't panic if you're like, oh gosh, I don't want to do the whole project. That will take too much time. That's okay. You can do pieces of it too. All right, so then our next excuse we're going to debunk, our last excuse we're debunking before we're going to talk through what the delegation process is we're the only ones that can do the task. Now, again, sometimes that's true, right? We are feeling like this is something that, you know, based on our role, based on our position within our agency, that is true. We may be the only ones that can do it. This might be something like writing performance goals or creating strategic plans or sitting on task forces. I don't know, however you say that word, task forces, because that's based on your role, your experience, and the leadership role that you maintain. So yeah, sometimes you are the only one that can do it. But a lot of times we say that because we want to be, yeah, that would be a good opportunity for mentoring. Absolutely, Jennifer. So sometime, we're going to get into that in just a second, or like in another slide. Yeah, or 2 slides from now. Anyway, so we get hesitant sometimes because, especially if we got our jobs, we were promoted into supervisory positions because we were so good at being an individual contributor. So we use that term a lot on our team, individual contributor. So to be very clear, that is someone whose work is they're only concerned about their own work. Where a manager, supervisor, that level is concerned about the work of all of a team and the development of the team, okay? So it gets really tricky because in the state of Utah, many, maybe even most of the supervisory jobs, they keep a level of that individual contribution, the same as the team, and then also you're supervising. So, excuse me. So that makes it a little difficult and a little tricky. So we've got to be aware of that. And it makes it even trickier if we were told multiple times, man, you're so good at this, you're so good at this. And then you become a supervisor and it's like, well, I'm not doing that anymore. Am I still good at a job? And so you need to work on that shift from I am doing the job to now I'm leading. Now I'm helping, I'm delegating, I'm supporting my team. You want to be more than just an individual contributor who signs timesheets, right? You want to be a leader. So Jamie, I might have to talk to you offline or afterwards if you want to ask that question, because that will get me way off track, because there definitely is a huge piece about if you get undermined. And we might get into some of that a little bit, but hang on to that thought and we'll get to that at the end, okay? Okay, so recognizing your role, super important. The next thing is this paradox, and you want to be more essential and less involved. And so, yeah, Theron, we've asked David, he hasn't responded, but his hand's been up for quite a while. So David, if you do have a question, yeah, that's okay, Theron. That's right. I appreciate that you guys are helping us out with this. That's awesome. Okay, so let me talk to you about this paradox. We being more essential and less involved. Now, I don't want anyone to leave here and be like, oh my gosh, less involved. So that means that I just, you know, I don't care anymore. I'm not engaged. I don't support. I'm just, hey, see ya. That's not what we mean by less involved. This paradox of leadership is we get confused between what is essential and what is involved. So we still think that when we are doing individual contributor work, that makes us essential. And the way that we become more essential is by doing less of the individual contributor work. So that means, I don't know if that's making sense to you or if I'm explaining this in the way that would make sense to everybody, is your role, your impact of your leadership will be felt at a higher level and more strongly the more that you are able to help your team and to magnify who you are as a leader, and your skills and your influence can be felt greater when by others' actions. Is that making sense? So it's not that you are focused on doing the individual contributor. You are, how can I help my team to do the individual contributor so that that can help move the mission of our agency? So this is how you ask yourself, what would happen if you took a week off of work? Unexpected, totally unexpected. So the last couple of weeks I've been off. My daughter got influenza, ended up in the hospital for a couple of days, and then I got it, and then I got pneumonia, and I've been gone. I've been like totally out of it for a couple of weeks. So what would happen? What would happen to my team? I don't have a team, I don't supervise, but let's just say I had a team. What would happen to my team if I just was gone for 2 weeks unexpectedly? Would they know how to further initiatives? Would they know what goals are happening? Or would they know what projects there are? Would they be able to step in and keep moving things forward because I've delegated enough to them and they know what's going on? If you don't know, or your answer is no, my team actually wouldn't be able to do that, then it's time for you to learn to be more essential and less involved. That's that weird paradox I'm trying to, get across. So, and then finally, the last one I have on here is being aware of our self-enhancement bias, which basically just means a lot of us think we're perfectionists, or we are perfectionists, and we think we're going to do everything the very best. And that's not always the case. And so it's just being aware that maybe there is someone else that can do the things better than you're doing them. So that doesn't mean that you're going to get rid of the things that you love. Like, I would cry if someone was like, no, Terry, you can't write the policy anymore. Oh, it would break my heart. But there are other ways that you can be the go-to person for other things. And we're going to talk through those as we go through the next little bit here. Okay, so now here we are. We have walked through our excuses. We know why delegation is important and how it's a win-win situation. And now it's time to figure out, what are we going to delegate? And who are we going to give all this to? The first thing to do, remember how I told you about that spreadsheet? You might want to use it again, maybe a second tab, and write down a list of every project you're working on, everything that's coming for the next month or so. Get an idea of projects, tasks, assignments, things that you're doing. If you're not sure how you're spending your days, and a lot of the time we might end our day and be like, I don't know what I got done today. You might want to actually do a time study on your own self for a week and be like, oh, really? Wow, I spent a lot of time doing this. Maybe that is something I can delegate. So put this list together, whether it's part of your time study for a week or whether it's just what's going on in the next month. And get all of that written down, everything you can possibly think of. And once you have that list, then I want you to go through your list. Again, it can be a spreadsheet, written down, whatever, on a whiteboard, whatever you want to do. And then go through the list and say, which ones of these are these high-level projects that only I can do? Again, that doesn't mean that they're more important than something else, but these things can only be done by someone in the role that I hold. So strategic priorities, projects that are, development goals for your team, things that of that nature that really truly are your things to do, and mark all those off. So that will leave you with a list of, here's all these things that I potentially could delegate. This is a great way to say, okay, yeah, I actually have a lot of things I can delegate and I can help my team grow and develop. So go through that list and then ask yourself these questions. I want you to categorize the list. Come up with what tasks, projects, or parts of the task or project, right, might be a learning opportunity for someone on my team, an opportunity for them to grow. What might be an opportunity for them to shine, for them to be more visible? Are there things they're really good at, but maybe they don't get recognition for? Or maybe, I know that they want to, be in this position in the future. And so I want to find ways to get it more visible that they already know how to do these things. So that type of stuff. And then the third one is which ones of these could support more higher level projects. Go through and kind of categorize and get a really good feel for what's on there and what you could delegate. So you've gone through, in theory, hopefully, you've talked to your team, you've asked them questions, you've written down the things that they think they want to do and they want to learn, and the things they enjoy and how they get energized and how much they love their job, what they love doing, all that kind of stuff. And then as you review your list, then compare that list from your team to the list of tasks that you think you can delegate. And then that gives you a really good, you can merge them together and say, here's the things I can, this task, this project, this piece of this matches, so-and-so wants to learn more about pivot tables, for example. So I know that this project, this data project is going to include a lot of pivot tables and a lot of research. That's right up so-and-so's alley. That's what they want to learn. I'm going to delegate this task to them. This is something that I can really help them to learn and grow. So go back, go through that list, come up with everything, and choose the right people. Now, we've all been burned before. We've all given a task, we've delegated something, or maybe we just assigned a task, didn't realize it was a delegation, we just assigned it, and then the person didn't do it. And then we end up like, oh my gosh, So you may want to okay, I want to test the waters with this person. I want to give them something smaller and see how they do. And then you can kind of gauge and figure out what their strengths and what growth they need from there. So, ideally though, you should be able to delegate at least one item, some form of work to every person on your team so that they can feel that you trust them and that you are devoted. That might not be the right word. You're interested in their growth and development. All right, so once you figure that out, you figured out what it is I'm going to delegate, figured out who I'm going to delegate to, now you need to talk to them. You've got to get their buy-in. Just because you think it's a great thing for them to do and to learn, it may or may not fit with them. So we want to make sure that when you're meeting with them that you say, okay, whew, here it is. This is what it is. Now, I saw another question pop up. Just questions. I will take questions at the end because I can't see the chat very well. Oh, and Rod, so good. So if you have questions, stay after. We'll talk through them. And then Rod, absolutely. There is a fine line between delegation and abdicating your responsibility. And that's where we're headed right now, is how do we make sure that we're doing it purposefully? That we're not just saying, okay, here's the work and see you later. That is, now I'm doing this because I want to help you grow and develop. And so that's absolutely where we are right now. So go to the person, schedule a meeting with them. You might already have a one-on-one scheduled. It might be if there's multiple people involved in the project you're giving, maybe you have a meeting with all of them at once. It's really up to you, but make sure that you have enough time to really talk and discuss all of it. You want to start the meeting off and explain, just give an overview of the assignment. This is what it is, this is the timeline, or we're going to get more details soon, or whatever it is. Walk through that. And then this is the key. And this goes right back to what Rod said just a minute ago. Explain the connection between what you're asking, what you're delegating, and how it fits with what that person has told you about their needs. So if they have said, gosh, I'm trying to come up with one. Let's say they want to learn to be better at graphic design. Let's just take graphic design. They want to be better at graphic design, and they are really struggling understanding how certain things work and how certain, different Adobe products and Photoshop and all that kind of stuff. And it falls in line with what their job is. Then, and you have a task where it's like, gosh, there's a group, a committee that's going to create new logos. And so this might be a great opportunity for this person. So when you're explaining the task, you want to say, hey, because we talked and you said you wanted to learn more about graphic design, I thought of you immediately because this project is going to allow you to learn that new, program that you've been wanting to learn. It's going to allow you to work with some people who are already in the graphic design field and get a better, increase your skills. So you're really trying to help them understand the connection and how it fits. You want to motivate them so that they care about it. And if you can't articulate why they should care, then they're not going to. They're not going to think that it even matters if you can't give them that. So that's part of it. You want to make sure that you are saying, hey, here's the connection. This is why I thought of you. And if you don't explain why, people are going to make up their own things. And they're going to think, well, yeah, it's because they just don't want to do their job. That's one of them, right? That's what we think. Okay, so then after you do that, then say, all right, let's give them some time to process. You might say, what are your thoughts? Or what else do you want me to tell you about this? What questions do you have about it? And give them time to consider things. They might want to talk about their workload. They might want to say, gosh, I'm working on stuff and it is just, I don't know that I have time for this. So that's a great opportunity to sit down and help them reprioritize, go through things and say, okay, yeah, this might be. Now, I don't want you to jump in and be like, oh, it's going to be easy. It's going to be short. It's only going to take you a short amount of time if you don't know that for sure. So don't try to minimize it, but just talk with them about what it is. And then give them some timeline, give them some roles, talk through like, this is what's going to be expected. Talk through how often do you want to meet to communicate. You don't want to micromanage. So having this discussion in advance and saying to them, hey, how often do you think you want to report back? Weekly, quarterly? I mean, depending on the project, daily? Do you need a weekly report? Do you need updates? What are the things that you need? And then asking your employee, how is the best way to do this? Are we IMs? Are we, email? Is it in person? Having all of that set in advance lets you give that accountability to the person so that then they're not thinking, oh, they don't trust me. They're micromanaging me. They gave me this project to work on, but yet they're checking on me every single day to make sure I'm doing it right. So that's not delegation. We want to delegate and give them that accountability for it. It is a tricky balance. And so you've got to find a way to really let go. This does not mean, again, doesn't mean to like not be engaged and to not care about it, but to be, okay, I've given them this. This is what we've set as timelines and roles and how often we're going to check in and what the end result should be, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to allow them to do it and figure out their own way of doing it. One of my favorite quotes, and JJ, I don't think even knows I have this on here. JJ on our team said, delegation is focused on results, not on methods. So you want to say, here's the end result that I need, but how they get there, that's up to them. If you're telling them how to get there, then that's a lot of micromanaging. However, there might be times, again, everything that I tell you, there might be times when you need to do that. But in general, you want to say, here's what I need as the end result, and then free them up to make the decisions to get there. Give them that opportunity because that's what's going to help them grow, is to make those mistakes and to learn and to figure it all out. Now, that doesn't mean we want them to do unethical things or to go against policy, but if the end result is the same, how they get there shouldn't make that big of a difference. All right. However, what happens is a lot of times when we delegate, we actually will say, okay, good job, see ya, and walk away, right? And that actually is not delegation. That's just giving someone a task to do. And that's fine in some cases, but really, and I've said it, I think 40 million times today already, your role as a supervisor is to develop and grow your team. And you do this through coaching them through this delegation process. You've given them something, you've explained why it's going to fit into so much of what they're wanting out of their job. And then now it is, I've got to coach them through it to make sure that they are growing and developing and that this doesn't get dropped. So it's, again, that fine line between micromanaging and assisting. So here's some levels to kind of help you understand what would be micromanaging and what's not based on where your employee is. So the first thing is do. If your employee just lacks experience on it completely, or maybe they just don't even have the skills for this yet, it's like, oh, this is brand new. I want to learn how to do this, but I don't know yet. So you're going to do, which means you do the task and they shadow you and watch so that the next time they can do it. So it might be that's how you're helping them grow and develop is, hey, yeah, thanks, Rod. I love that Drucker quote. So Peter Drucker, he's so good. Sorry, I get so distracted when I see the chats. I tried. So there's a couple people on our team that are answering chats because I get so distracted and then I still respond to them. I'm sorry. Okay, back. All right, do. You do it and the employee shadows you. And that's not micromanaging. If they have no experience and they don't have the skill set, that's perfect. That's a perfect way to coach them and help them through the delegation. The next way is tell. So maybe they don't know exactly how to do it, but they are kind of familiar with it. Then maybe this is like, hey, I'm going to just tell them what to do and then see how they do. Or I might tell them and then I might be, encouraging them to do some self-reflection on, what is it that they think they should be doing. So it's just a little bit more than do. The next level, when we start to get into this teach mode, teach is basically do and tell right there. You build up to teach. So you can teach somebody if they know the skills and the steps, but like they have to refer to, a document to be able to know, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, that type of stuff, then maybe they need more teaching. So you might have to show them certain things. You might have to ask them, why are you doing that? Why are you doing certain things to help reinforce the all of the steps that they already know? They just haven't figured out that they know them yet, if that makes sense. So teaching is doing, showing, and explaining and asking them to asking them why they're doing stuff. And then that falls into ask. So if an employee knows how to do a task, but you want them to move off of that procedure and the step-by-steps, and you want them to grow that knowledge more than just relying on other people or things written down, then that's when you can start asking them, well, you tell me, how do you think you could do this? What are the things that you've learned from other projects that might fit into this? And get them thinking on how it can be done, because they're already familiar with it. They already are, oh yeah, it is. Similar to Scouting's EDGE, educate, demonstrate, guide, encourage. Absolutely it is. Hey, that was a good one. Good one, Jennifer. Yes, and then support's the final one. Even if your employee is fully capable of handling the task, they've done it a million times, it might be something they excel at, and so what you've delegated to them is the opportunity for them to do something very visible. And so you don't want to just walk away and leave them, because then that's the absence of micromanaging. That is like abandonment. And you don't want that. That's not how you build and grow and develop your team. So you want to support them. And that might be as simple as saying, hey, how often do you want me to check in with you? Or sending an email, hey, I'm just checking in, just supporting you. Is there anything I can do to help? Or, like, I have trust in you. Is there anything you need from me? I'd love to support, or however you want to phrase it. Because that person is skilled in what it is they're doing. And so you don't need, imagine if you knew how to do, like, let's take policy. I know how to write policy. I've done it for decades and decades, right? And so if I had a boss who did the do piece where it was like, and I'll show you how to do this, right? That would feel very, very micromanaging to me. And so you've got to figure out where the person is. And you may want to bring up this image or just ask them, what is it that you need from me? Do you want me to show you how to do it? Do you want me to tell you how to do it? Do you want me to teach you? Which is a combination of things. Get a good feel from them as well. Okay, so then they're working on it, and then you're not just letting go, you're still checking in, you're still supporting. I want you to keep providing feedback and coaching them, providing with resources they might need, and asking them as they go through the project, what's working well? What isn't going well? Are there things that you don't want to do next time? And get some good ideas going. And then that's a great opportunity, a great opening to say, well, I'd like to share some things that I'm seeing. Are you okay if I share those? And then that's when you can provide feedback. Growth-based feedback, which we always call negative feedback, but it's really growth-based. That's when we can provide them some opportunities to understand ways they can improve even more. And then the big thing I want you to always be doing is encouraging, recognizing, celebrating, motivating, all of those things. We have a huge budget of $0. It doesn't cost you any money to do these things. And so that's perfect. It's perfect. It fits in with our budget so well to encourage and celebrate and recognize, motivate. Find out how your team, how do they want to be recognized? Do they want you to say something in staff meeting in front of other people? Do they want you to only say it to them? Do they just want a fist bump in the hallway? Do they want a billboard on I-15? Okay, maybe not, because we can't afford that. But you know what I mean? Like, get a good idea of how it is that they want to be recognized and celebrated, and help them understand how what they're doing contributes to the team, to the organization, and really to the people of Utah. One of the cool things about where we all work is we work for the state of Utah. The state of Utah is not in business to make money. This is not a money-making, it's not private sector. The state of Utah is in business to be of service. And we're here to serve the public. We're here to serve, our customer agencies or whatever it is, but it's based on service. So if we can help tie that in when people are working on projects, that actually is super motivating. So we want to find ways, how can I motivate them through seeing what is this project they're working on, or this piece of the project, this assignment? How is that helping the end user? How is that helping the citizens of Utah? And walk them through that process. That's a great motivator. So those are all things you can do as someone is working through it. And then when the assignment's over, review, reflect, conduct that retrospective, and ask them, what was it like? And really what you're trying to find out at this point is, how well did the project go in terms of delegation? And some of it might be, how well did the project go? But you're also asking, gosh, what was this experience like for you? Did you get stuck on things because I didn't do things? Or was I doing things that made it so you got stuck? What did you learn from this? What can we do better next time? Gather all of that, because here's what I have to tell you about delegation. It's not going to happen just once. And we know this, right? It's this continual thing of, here's all the stuff that I have, here's all the things that my employees want to learn, and I'm going to try and fit those together. And so understand that that is going to be this continual over and over and over thing, and you want to learn from it every single time. And then after you talk to your employee, then you should do some self-reflection too. You can start learning about, what did you do wrong? And again, mistakes are only learning opportunities. So keep that mindset of, how can I tweak my approach? How can I be better at delegation? Am I giving them, am I too involved? Am I not involved enough? Are there things I need to monitor more closely? Have I given tasks to certain people and they have not been able to complete them? So do I need to reduce the difficulty of certain tasks that I give away, or that type of stuff. So have that self-reflection so that you can really know if delegation is working and what are the things you're doing to grow and develop your team. So delegation is difficult, has a really negative, or people think, oh, I'm just giving away the work I don't want to do. But really, we want to be purposeful, very purposeful in it, because it's a great thing to use to develop your team, to help them grow, to meet your agency mission, and also to keep them engaged and to keep them excited about their job and doing things that they love and things that challenge them, because that's what helps people find meaning in work and understanding how we're supporting and providing that service to citizens. All of that stuff all works together so that people have high job satisfaction. They'll start loving their job and loving where they work, and then reducing turnover and all of those kinds of stuff. It all works together. So it can take time, and it might feel really awkward and bumpy at the beginning, but the payoff is really great. And so I really want to encourage you to do more delegation. All right, we've walked through the process. Here's some resources. Now, again, I'm going to send you the slide deck so you'll be able to get this, but JJ Acker did a webinar off the shelf on delegation. There's also a cool self-assessment, which is like, how well do I already delegate? And so you can kind of do some thinking about that. And then I've given you a list of articles and places where I've gotten some of the content from today. All right, just a reminder, next month, again, we're having to, due to scheduling, we're having to bump it from the last Wednesday in February. So there's not really an off the shelf in February, but there will be one March 5th. And Shane's just put the link in the chat so you can register for that. It's going to be so good. Let's talk story. I'm so excited about this one. And so Dr. Dan Chase will be doing that in March. And that is everything. Thank you so much for being here today. For those of you who had additional questions, if you want to stay after, we'll stop the recording. Thanks, Rod. And we'll stop the recording so that you won't have to be on the recording when you answer those, ask those questions. And I am happy to answer whatever you need. So thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic day. We'll send out the link to the recording and thanks, Tricia, and the slide deck a little bit later today. Thanks. Bye.